That was another world, he said. Another civilization, she corrected him. The one I was born into. It has died. I say died, not vanished, because it was a living organism. A civilization based on the family. What has taken its place is not alive, an atomized society without security, without warmth, a chaos of fragmented mechanical relationships. Oh, I know as well as you do that in my world all was not well, there was ignorance and poverty. But the right way was not to tear down that world and replace it by anarchy. The family base should have been extended, cherished, encouraged. Storm Jameson in The Early Life of Stephen Hind, 1966. Okay, welcome to today's book club episode of Sacred Story Collective. We are going through the font on this. If you're looking at the video, is so large, you'll definitely be able to see it, so that's a plus. But The Death of the West by Patrick Buchanan. This is insane. I hope you guys are prepared for the ride we're about to go on. It was such a wild, eye-opening experience to see that things that have seemingly shown up very recently have been building for decades, for generations. So a little awareness of history will really change your perspective on things, and I certainly learned a lot reading through this book. Welcome to the show, my lady.
I can't wait to learn. As per usual, when you read a book, you read a lot to me. But I feel like you were saving more from this one for the book club because you instantly knew this was going to be a book club book.
That's so wild.
But what you read was
I think I saved more. I really went through and took some notes for this episode to try and keep it somewhat concise. So I'm very excited for what we're to go through. Let me just read briefly first off, actually, that quote I read at the start, assuming that I left it there, is from, it's just the opening quote. What would you call this when it's just sitting there by itself? It's before the introduction to this book, so kind of a
foreword.
Yeah, a little synopsis of the mindset we're entering into. So that was a fascinating starting point. On the back of the book, one of the things it says is, not a single European country, save Muslim Albania, has a birth rate that will enable it to survive in its present form through this century. By 2050, only 1/10 of the world's people will be of European descent, and it will be the oldest 10th on Earth with a median age of almost 50.
Wow. I just saw a video where it was like a street interview and they were quizzing people and asked them what was the percentage of Caucasian people on the planet in the 70s versus today. Yeah. And I was really surprised. It was like 30% to 7% today.
Whoa. Okay, I will go on my, I guess it depends how you define things to some degree, because I was finding some discrepancies, especially with the European population, including or not including Russia and how Russia is defined and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's complications, which,
totally,
just like splitting people by ethnicity complicates things a lot.
Yeah.
And we've said before that God's order is Jew and Gentile. Well, initially it was that. Now it's just saved and unsaved. We are of the kingdom, or we are seeking those who are lost. I guess there's lost and found, basically. So we get really complicated. Obviously, people look different and live in different places, but just get all over the place quickly.
Yeah, and yet there could be somebody who lives across the world who speaks a different language and looks entirely different. But if they know the Lord, they are your brother or sister in Christ, versus your next door neighbor who may look just like you and have the same language and income and type of job and family structure. But if they don't know the Lord, they're not your brother or sister in Christ. So go share the gospel with them. Mm-hmm. So they can be, Lord willing, but yeah, we have more in common than our
totally. On that same token, we have much more in common with a brother or sister in Christ on the other side of the world that looks completely different than us, than the person that lives right next to us that hates this country.
Yeah.
Because there's people that of righteous heart that honor the Lord and would love to be here, which is a huge part of this discussion. So this book is crazy. It's just prophetic. Obviously, to some degree, it's based off of clear and obvious data, considering how much has played out exactly as he is expecting it to going through this. So, but at the same time, it's just a right and something that comes to be true, a statement of the future, is prophetic, even if it had, it was an educated guess, even if it had plenty of data to form the hypothesis. So still, it's just wild. This book was published, I mentioned it before, in 2001. Let me confirm. 2002. So the most recent data in this book is from 2001 and backward. And I'm just going to start off with some crazy statistics, a little bit kind of what you just alluded to at the street interview, is that in 1960, and I'll come back to why this is an important starting point. I bet you could guess if you thought for a second. But 1960, the world population was about 3 billion, and between Europe, Australia, Canada, and the U.S., so it would be kind of all the people that came out of Europe and expanded across those places, made up about 750 million of that 3 billion, so around 25% of the population. And then by 2000, 40 years later, when the population of the world had doubled to around 6 billion, the population had grown of those countries, but had only reached around 1 billion. So now we went from 25% to more like 16, 17% of the population. And then 2024, so another quarter century later, we are at just over 1.2 billion between those four, but the world population has gone over 8 billion as of this last year. So we gained 200 million, the world gained 2 billion. So 10 times that in countries that are non-European ancestry. Fascinating, crazy.
Right. And again, like, does it, or I guess question is, does it matter that there's less people with pale skin in the planet?
No.
Great.
Certainly not. But does it matter that there are even both the practices, worldviews, religions? These are the things that need to be seriously taken into account, because if more and more people intermarried, and so like the totality of the population of the earth became more and more similar in view, it would probably be overall beneficial if it was only the physical attributes that were in question in that scenario. If that takes place in alignment with Muslim belief and practices spreading throughout the world, or something like that, that's just going to be a worldview that's going to do much more damage than good, then it's a problem overall. Right. So it's not about the look of the people, it's about the worldview actions and practice and what comes out of them. Yeah. But I think we'll come back to some things more specific on that from the book. I gotta try and stick to the book for the book club and not wander out too far, but here I'm going to do another set of statistics, which is birth rates that are wild. So I have birth rates from Germany, Italy, Russia, England, Japan, and the United States. Japan obviously is a standout on this list, but it was one of the earliest peoples that went into serious freefall in their populations. So it's a fascinating outlier. So as of the 1960, when they had already decreased heavily. Actually, I didn't write specifically. This might actually have been 2000. I have present data, and then I have these, and I doubt 1960 was with how low these are. So, messed up that one. But somewhere between 1960 and 2000, the birth rates, and then obviously they reached the present levels they're at in that stretch, so we'll figure it out. But Germany was at 1.3. And so, obviously, this is per woman, but you have to be over 2 because you need both sides of the reproductive system to make a child. So you have to be over 2 per woman to maintain a population. You have to be greater than that for the population to grow. So you'll notice that all of these numbers I'm about to read are less, and mostly significantly less than the required birth rate. And then the United States is like just barely at that. So the U.S. was at... So
this is birth rate per household, or like per family, or per mother?
Per mother. Okay. This would be children per woman Yeah, over
Okay.
over a lifetime.
Okay.
The U.S., this is on average across the whole population, because obviously some ladies are doing much more than
Yeah.
their share there. The U.S. was at 2.06, so probably like at or just below where you can keep up with what you need to for the population. Japan was at 1.36, England at 1.66, Russia 1.35, and Italy 1.2. I don't know what accounts for Italy. Italy also has a much smaller population. I don't know specifics, but yeah, crazy. And obviously, if you get down to 1 or just over 1 per household, per woman, your population gets cut in half every generation, or like every lifetime, I guess, technically. Presently, Germany has barely changed upward. I guess it's probably just a rounding thing, 1.3 to 1.39. Italy has remained the same. Russia basically the same. England has dropped from 1.66 to 1.41. Japan from 1.36 down to 1.2, joining in with Italy. And then the United States, total average 1.62.
Wow, that's lower than I thought.
What's fascinating is, let me read this crazy statement from the Institute for Family Studies that I found when I was going through this.
Okay.
This is based on presidential election data, and that'll be obvious when I read the first sentence. Those counties that voted for Trump tended to have much higher fertility rates than those that did not. This relationship is quite strong. For every 10% increase in votes for Trump in 2024, there is an expected increase of 0.09 babies in a woman's lifetime. While 0.09 babies does not sound like much, the effect of this Republican advantage shows most prominently at the tail end of county votes. Counties that had less than 25% of their vote share for Trump, such as Washington, D.C., had a median total fertility rate of 1.31. In contrast, counties that had more than 75% of their votes for Trump had a total median fertility of 1.84. So still below replacement values, but much closer, and a huge difference between the two.
That is so interesting and checks out.
It makes sense. The less self-obsessed, less nihilistic, hopeless for the future, all of it. Yeah, it's coming together. I'm going to read the following few sentences too. This relationship between voting Republican and having more babies is growing stronger over time. In 2012, a 10% increase in votes for Romney within a county saw an expected increase in 0.05 in total fertility rate compared to 0.09 in 2024. In the past 12 years, relationship between voting Republican and having more babies has grown by 85%.
Wow.
Obviously, 85% sounds crazy, but it's just comparing 0.05 to 0.09.
Right. I wonder, is that also take into account what is this called? Rate? What kind of rate? Replacement rate? Birth rate? If like that takes into account the birth rate dropping from the 12 years difference.
It's like for that year or that voting.
So in the last 12 years, the birth rate on average has gone down, and then the likelihood of a Republican family having more children goes up. Yeah. And then that combined.
I cannot confirm
85%.
that for sure, but that makes sense to me that would add to it seeming larger.
Yeah.
Because because
and just
the
in
total
comparison
has
to like the
decreased.
culture that we're in outside of conservative Christian families. Of course, this is speaking to like politics as opposed to religion, but
there's a lot of correlation.
There's an assumption, yeah.
Yeah. And then back to the 1960s thing, which was the start of all these statistics, that's when, do you have a assumption on
sexual revolution?
Yeah, it would be sexual revolution. What more specifically?
Birth control?
Yes, birth control. 1960, so 57 was the first time any sort of a pill that functioned as birth control was approved by the FDA, and it was used for, it was more of how it's often portrayed today when trying to give it to young women, of like, this is going to maintain your hormone balance. It's like you have more control over your menstrual cycle, that kind of thing.
Not that it's depleting all of your B vitamins and destroying your fertility and really bad for you.
Don't need to tell the ladies that. They can't handle it, And then 1960 was when it was officially approved as a birth control pill called Inovid, I believe.
Okay.
And so from then, by obvious means, we have plummeting birth rates.
Shocker. And the sad part of that, and we'll talk about this in the future, that it's not just for women who decide that they don't want to have children, but women who were told that they should be on birth control for a time to prevent children for a time, waited, and then that affected their fertility. So then later they weren't able to have children, or they waited too long, not understanding their body and how their cycles work and what menopause does to your body and all those things. And they weren't able to have children. Mm-hmm. It's really sad.
Yeah, there's the wickedness of the start of like putting it into practice at all, but also there's a level of the I'll try and do this quickly because we'll do more of a abortion specific argument episode in the future. But there's people at first who we've become less and less capable of arguing based on scientific data and technology that is not a baby inside of the woman. So early on when it's not as visible, I guess you could say, it's not so clearly before people presented with the improvements in scanning, that kind of thing, where people could say, well, yeah, it's not really a baby yet. So like there's that curve of people coming to the conclusion, but quickly, so it's like you start in the wickedness, it makes sense, and then we get to, and I mean, there's no excuse left anymore for making those arguments and using it. I'm feeling like I started from when I started this statement, I wanted to make a different end point, but I've lost it on the way. But that's okay, because Roe v. Wade, 1973, we know about that, recently overturned, 2022, great, 21. And not that that's made a large improvement overall because of abortion pills and states' decisions.
And it's still legal in every single state for a woman to kill her own child.
To get the pills, yes. But by 1983, here's a crazy stat. So 10 years post Roe v. Wade, by 1983, abortion replaced tonsillectomies as the most common medical procedure in the country.
That hurts. What year was that?
83. 10 years after
the
right to death was passed.
I had not heard that statistic before.
Yes, so
makes
that's
me want
from
to throw up.
The first chapter of The Death of the West. There's a lot of statistics in there. I got that quote about abortion replacing tonsillectomies. And now we're on to chapter 2. I'm going to read directly from the book. This is interesting. It should give us something briefly to consider and talk about here. So it says, quote, Dutch demographer Dirk van de Ka traces the phenomenon to 4 transformations. Okay, the phenomenon of the plummeting birth rates. A shift from the golden age of marriage to the new dawn of a new age of cohabitation. B, a shift from a time of king child with parents to that of king parents with one child. C, a shift from preventative contraception to benefit early children to self-fulfilling contraception to benefit parents. D, a shift from a uniform family system to a pluralistic system of families and households, including single-parent families.
I'm confused.
We can talk about them one at a time. He's saying these were the 4 transitions that happened societally that led to extreme downfalls. The title of this chapter is Where Have All the Children Gone?
Ah, gotcha.
So the first one is we went from marriage to cohabitation.
Right, yeah. Say no more. So dumb. One of my favorite things I learned in getting my psychology degree is when I learned in one of my classes that secular scientific studies prove that cohabitation leads to divorce, or you're more likely to divorce. That should be more clear. You're more likely to divorce if you cohabitate before marriage, and like all these other statistics and things that I learned about cohabitation. And that really showed me that God is in charge of all science and social sciences and psychology and sociology. Like, God is sovereign over all of that, and scientists are always just catching up to what God already knows and has told us in His Word.
Lean not on your own understanding. That I had my sociology professor at GCU was bragging about how she was saying these statistics, like you are at a major disadvantage of overall long-term relationship success and happiness, however you define it, but just remaining together if you don't cohabitate before marriage. But she was like, me and my husband, not my husband, me and my, whatever she called him, my boy toy are an outlier in this situation because we've been together for 6 years and all this. The only thing I remember from that class, really, because it stood out just as so
sad
silly.
Woman.
But yeah, you cannot escape the designs of God's law. You are, let's just clarify this real quick. If you are cohabitating before marriage, I know obviously everybody knows plenty of people, but I've heard the argument from someone just secondhand, like one close relationship removed, that there was the man with Christian parents, his girlfriend, non-Christian parents, they say she can't get married unless she has already lived with the man, because how is she going to know? And so clearly he's not acting in his, even if he would label himself a Christian, he's not acting on it to any degree, and not being a leadership or a leader or decisive in his decision making. Obviously it's just foolish. And I actually don't know for sure if he like submitted to that or what the situation is at this point, but you are just practicing. If I'm not fulfilled today, then I can move on to the next thing. You're just practicing a lack of commitment. It should be obvious.
I have so many thoughts on cohabitation. We should definitely do an episode about that when we get to premarital things.
I'll be there, baby. Also, I love marital habitating with you.
Same.
On to, we're still talking about the 4 transformations. Yeah. Obviously, we could spend too long, but let's go briefly through the other 3.
Yeah, because I didn't really understand some of the...
The second one was a shift from king child, in quotes, with parents to that of king parents with one child. So what he's saying is, what I've said plenty of times in our episodes referencing children, is that you are no longer the most important. You have a child. The child is now of utmost importance. You are raising them, preparing them for the future and for future generations. We went from that perspective to, like, I have the child to help them do better than I am, to I am the king, you are the queen. We have one child, and we make it, what's that term from Instagram? Low maintenance?
Yeah, low maintenance
children. We
don't want my child to get in the way of my life. My life is more important.
Yes. And what's the singer lady? Adele's...
Yeah, we got divorced, and my child will understand.
Take it easy on me. I gotta look at these lyrics. It's so relevant to this.
Yeah.
Take it easy on me. I don't know what that song's called.
Yeah, that song apparently is she wrote to her son to like validate her own feelings when she divorced his dad, or they broke up or whatever.
So that
was like a quote from her from a magazine that she said that.
The chorus that I'm sure everybody's heard, "Go easy on me, baby." So she's saying this to her child, which if you didn't know that probably makes this a lot worse. Well, it should. I was still a child, didn't get the chance to feel the world around me. I had no time to choose. What I chose to do is to go easy on me. Obviously, having the child is a much better option than just killing it off for your own pleasure.
Yeah, praise God that child is alive.
But then to have to bear the weight of this once they can understand what she's trying to say, like, you got in the way, so I had to go do what I was going to do. Yeah, this week's news, we're going to go through the Steph Curry's wife on a podcast. Some people may have seen, basically making the same statement, but towards her husband more so. Same perspective.
Yeah, or it reminds me too of that girl that was in elementary school she was in your PE class, and her mom abandoned her and said she had to go find herself.
Yes. And a 4th grade girl crying, said she didn't know where her mom was. She'd been gone for 2 weeks because she left to find herself. Like, her mom had literally told her that statement. Obviously, she wouldn't have known to say that otherwise. It's so sick. Okay, the third one is a shift from preventative contraception, which if you are using, like back to the pill thing, if you're using the I guess it's just called the pill, to prevent pregnancy, you're messing with your hormones and likely to very long-term detriment.
Yeah, but if you're using like barrier method, like condoms and stuff, then you're not damaging your hormones. But that's still preventative birth control, which was, that's good for people.
Yeah,
who
different
need it.
Conversation. Specifically for this statement, it says to benefit early children. So it'd be like, we have a child and then have that little gap for your body to heal, and also to some degree, like the child in the first year takes so much more energy overall. So if you can extend that at least a little bit before the next child, it's probably to the benefit of the other one. But that transitioned from that to self-fulfilling contraception to benefit parents. So this is the dinks. We're never going to have kids because it's better to have a bunch of money and just have sex without any results. It's all about my pleasure.
Yeah, and not knowing the true pleasure that comes from having sex with your spouse for the full purpose that it's for.
That,
not to brag, but trying to have a baby for 5 years, Sucks, but
I've been
also it's best. That's all I'll say on that matter.
Can't argue. What I thought you were going to say, though, was that they don't know the joy. This is obviously also true. Don't know the joy of the child to any degree. And, like, I don't know, the judgment and mercy of God in that is immense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for the sake of time, I keep going. The fourth one was a shift from a uniform family system, so that would be that is the main unit of the nation, to pluralistic system of families and households, including single-parent families. So this is just, you end up just individualistic. Each separate person. Okay. This is like the
person versus the family. Gotcha.
And a part of that would be like the voting, our favorite subject of voting, changing from households to individuals when women got the right to vote.
Right.
So now we have plenty of women and men voting separately, just basically making irrelevant both of their votes instead of households being on the same page.
So let's just be precise about what we mean and also reference a modern example. So 19th Amendment, women got the right to vote. Women voting is not an inherently bad thing. You won't catch us saying that. But it is more unifying for the household and therefore our nation for there to be one vote per household. We think from a Christian perspective that if there was only one vote, if our household, if our address number only got one ballot, then because Josh is the leader of our family, he would make the final decision. But like all marital discussions, like I would state my opinion if I had one, and he would listen to what I'd have to say and let that influence if it was appropriate. And otherwise, like he would make the final call because he's responsible for that decision and then vote. Not every family is Christian. That wouldn't go that way. I bet if there was only one vote per household, there'd be a lot more liberal women voting as opposed to their husbands.
It would be the vast majority. You'd have the distracted, passive husbands and the controlling matriarchs. Yes.
Yeah. And an example of that is before the last election, there was an ad for voting that was a woman that was kind of, they had her dressed like a MAGA woman, if that makes sense, like bedazzled hat, like she was meant to look conservative. And then the voiceover was Julia Roberts, I think, was the voiceover, and said, basically the plot of the commercial was your husband doesn't need to know who you vote for. And these two women were like winking at each other, and they go back to their husbands, and their husbands say, did you vote the right way? And she said, sure did, honey, and is like lying to her husband.
Yeah.
It's so wicked.
The main advertised policy positions of the Democratic Party last term was, ladies, you should lie to your husbands because it'd be better off if you vote for the Democrats. The Republicans are going to do more damage to your porn. There was multiple commercials on that.
Yeah.
You need porn in your life above all else.
Yeah, if you vote for Trump, you won't be able to watch porn anymore.
And then next step was, and don't you want to be able to kill off all your children? Those were the...
You protect your daughters so they have the right to kill their daughters one day. Anyways.
Yeah.
Death of the West.
Death of the West. That is right on. Okay. And then I'm going to, basing off that last point about the individuals, in the year 2000, guess what percentage of U.S. households were single? A single person had their name on the residence. I think this would be like apartments and homes and everything.
I don't know, like 40%?
Okay, that's very high. But it was 26%, which seemed crazy to me. That 1 in 4.
Sorry, I over-guessed it. That's always kind of a buzzkill. That's why I don't like the guessing game.
Well, you got to keep working on it.
Okay.
You have to practice. So 1 in 4 people living by themselves.
Oh,
so
yeah,
like
that's true. That's
going out into socialization, coming back to isolation.
Yeah.
Regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people. What year was that?
2000.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's when this book was written. Yeah, and then I'm curious what it is now. Maybe closer to that 40%. And then there's a lot of people who work from home, and they never see people.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they do, they're like only going out and meeting like Tinder dates or something. I don't know. They don't have like a Christian community. It's so sad.
Next is a similar list of 4 things. This is from 1968. So this is right after contraception going into wide use, and then the sexual revolution wreaking havoc in that decade. This is Pope Paul VI. This is really fascinating. I never heard anything about this. It says he issued an encyclical against contraception called Humanae Vitae. The 4 consequences he predicted of man's embrace of a contraceptive mindset. 1, widespread conjugal infidelity and the general lowering of morality. Check that off for sure. 2, women would no longer be man's respected and beloved companion, but serve as a mere instrument of selfish enjoyment.
Check.
Yes. Even just this week, I've seen this meme again when, where people, have you seen this where it'll say, which way Western man? And there will be the, what's the full body covering? Hijab is the head covering, but
I don't know what it's called, but a veil where it's only the eyes are split out. I actually saw a woman like that at Sprouts the other day, and she was like getting in her car, and I just prayed for her in my mind. It just breaks my heart so much.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. There's a meme that's like, which way Western man? And at one side it's women in that religious garb, and on the other side it's just like bikini models. It's like Carl's Jr. commercial. Mm-hmm. Like these are not the options.
I know. And like the celebration of the Sydney Sweeney commercial. Yeah. It's like, yay, we're sexualizing attractive women again. Like this is not we're not celebrating this.
Okay. It's so distorted. Like obviously there is objective beauty and lack of health is not objective beauty like we've tried to do in past years, so that's an upgrade, but the subjecting
the
women
bar
to
being so low doesn't make that a good thing.
Okay, so women as an instrument of selfish enjoyment. Problem number 3, it would put a dangerous weapon in the hands of public authorities who take no heed of moral exigencies. Dangerous weapon. Okay, I don't know to what degree he was trying to expand on this, but my mind immediately says we start putting birth control without people's knowledge into things.
Yep. Not to be a conspiracy theorist, but check. It's just it's in our water supply. Like it just is there.
Even if it's not purposeful, it ends up being because so many women use it. So I'm sure it heavily depends on your actual geographic location and the water filtration systems, things like this. Obviously, if you're on a well, it's not likely you're going to have
and it just depends too what you're being exposed to, because like life is. I'll stop. It's
for another day.
It's really bad.
The West is dying here.
Yeah.
But 25 years ago, so
yeah.
Slow down.
So is it dead? No, it's in hospice care.
We're still rejoicing in hope.
Yes.
Number 4,
True.
The treatment of men and women as objects.
Are we post millennials now? Because we have to like change our mindset.
Oh, I'm post millennial for sure. I would love to talk about it more.
Uh-oh.
I've mentioned it before. Oh, it overheated again. Okay. We are sweaty, but the camera's back.
The camera is no longer sweaty.
Yes. We had an overheat. We should be back in action, though. Okay, continuing. Let's see. The treatment of men... This is the 4th one from the Pope's 1968 statement. The treatment of men and women as objects and unborn children as a disease to be prevented would result in the dehumanization of the species. Check. Truly, truly... Let it be so. We've seen that. Okay, the 3rd chapter is called Catechism of a Revolution. So, in very succinct explanation, this was the increase in encouraging people, and especially through educational systems, to hate your own history. Weaponized empathy was another term that's not used in here, but that I thought was accurate to this. And then the increase in labeling things as hate crimes. Very dramatically over that, through the 60s through the early 2000s. Well, I guess when this was published, so 60s through the 90s.
Well, I hated it.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't we all? Next chapter is called For Who Made a Revolution. This is about Lukács. I'm not actually certain how to pronounce that one, but Gramsci, Adorno, and Marcuse. For men all working to some degree in like communistic perspectives, trying to infiltrate the United States culture. You know, you probably recognize Marcuse as being given. He's labeled with the Long March. Actually, is it Gramsci? Now I'm second guessing. One of the two of them is attached to the term the Long March through the institutions. So that this is like the start of the transition towards basically all the major educational facilities in the United States becoming means of producing, as we see now, and truly as led to the point of, this is like why Charlie Kirk got so much interest, is he was going to places where the kids were taught to hate everything about the United States history and believe these lies. And then it makes them very angry and hateful and spiteful.
So long march through the institutions is like an intended indoctrination of universities and government-funded schools?
Yes, it was the recognition that he specifically said that Christianity was not compatible with communism. There was no room. It was the way, somewhere in the book, the way Pat Buchanan says it is that the seeds of communism had hit dry ground of Christianity, using like the sower's parable.
I hate when people say that Jesus would have been a socialist when socialists and communists themselves say it is not compatible with Christianity. Like, what do you mean?
We've got lots of mixed up ideas. But so we've got, so the attempt was, this is going to take generations, and we have to start changing their minds as young as possible. So we get into the school system, which started with universities to produce teachers to go to the government schools to teach the children to go to the universities. And here we are 60, 70 years past that, and it's had quite an impact. But I am, again, we're hopeful, rejoicing in hope for the future. Less people going to college, I'm hopeful for. We will certainly not be encouraging our daughter and, Lord willing, future children that college is a necessity. We're not going to be saying, once you get to college, it has to be clear why you are doing so. Certainly won't be going to. Even GCU has the inherent problem of, I assume, basically all universities where you start off as an extension of high school. And you have a portion of your classes that you're paying ridiculous amounts of money for that are just elective-like. They're just
I
basic
literally took a
information.
belly dancing class, not at GCU, but they had dancing classes there, and so I took a belly dancing class at a community college because it was cheaper as one of my final credits, because I just had elective credits that I needed to fulfill to graduate. And so I took like a stress management course and a belly dancing class, and I took photography, which I was already a photographer.
I may have benefited from the belly dancing class, but I would have preferred to pay far less overall.
No. But yeah, like that's so silly. I got my degree in psychology and I needed to get random elective credits. That makes no sense.
If we somehow could have met in other circumstances, and neither of us got a degree and just ran our photography business as it is, it would be a much better position financially.
Because we still have student loans.
We wouldn't have any loans.
So silly. Yeah, it's so worth it because we both matured and were sanctified in Christ at GCU, and we had great experiences and made lifelong friends and met each other. And so the Lord uses all of it, but...
Yeah, so I'm definitely...
Yikes.
I'm speaking to... Well, like, there's just a wisdom in the choosing, and I'm speaking to the education specifically. There's problems everywhere. But still thankful. All right, I'm going to read the largest chunk that I've gone through so far.
Okay.
And I've read this one to you. But
Okay.
Let's
see if I remember it.
You're ready. Okay. To oppose affirmative action qualifies one as a racist. To insist there are roles in society unfit for women, such as Navy carrier pilot, is to be branded a sexist. If you believe immigration is far too high for our social cohesion, you are a nativist or a xenophobe. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association was bullied by gay rights militants into delisting homosexuality as a disorder. To be honest, I don't like the way he does the addition of, like, he adds emphasis to it when it could just be stated as what happened.
Okay.
Militants, I mean, likely they acted in that way, but
Right.
it's like the problems are inherent.
Right.
It's not the biggest thing to nitpick, but anyway, continuing.
You're acknowledging the bias. Yeah.
Certainly. Okay, continuing. Quote, now anyone who considers it a disorder suffers himself from a sickness of the soul called homophobia. Totally agree with this in that we add phobia to everything as if we're afraid of all these. Like, everybody's heard this. It's just stupidity that this is the term that's used. But I saw Douglas Wilson responded to someone this week saying this was caused by your name calling over the past generation that has removed any consequence from all these terms. Yes, absolutely. Just use them into nothingness. Problem. But what I mean about saying is I want to be loving in a sense of honesty, but also understanding. Like these are people that are all in on labeling themselves as a sexual identity, are so far from having eyes to see and ears to hear that we do have to have somewhat of, we can't adjust the truth that they are children of wrath remaining in that sinfulness. Like, it has to be said that it's sin, but we can't say that they are wicked, evil militants. It's like anything that's going to push them away from any chance of the Spirit working in them. That's what I'm focusing on there. I'm going to continue. Homosexual acts are against nature's law, said Pope John Paul II as thousands marched on International Gay Pride Day in Rome. The Church cannot silence the truth because this would not help discern what is good from evil. Okay, I guess that's Pope John Paul II basically saying what I was just trying to say. Okay. Is you can go and look at 1 Corinthians 6, Romans 1, and see even back Old Testament, Leviticus 18:19, Old Testament law, you can see God's law explained, put into practice, and the desire for people to be set free from things that are destroying them. And if we don't say that, it would not help discern good from evil. Exactly. Okay, continue. Maybe I'll do less intermittent discussion. Quote, "This restatement of Catholic moral teaching marks the Holy Father and all who accept the teaching as true as homophobic. Scholar and author Paul Gottfried calls it the dehumanization of dissent." That's a fascinating statement. Last section I'll read. Quote, "Words are weapons," said Orwell. "Traditionalists have yet to discover effective countermeasures. By calling an enemy a racist or fascist, you no longer need answer his arguments. He must defend his character. In a court of law, the accused is innocent until proven guilty. But if the charge is racism, homophobia, or sexism, there is today the presumption of guilt. Innocence must be proven by the accused beyond a reasonable doubt."
I remember you reading that part to me. Yeah.
All you have to do is throw out the label. And that has worked. I would say it's not working anymore. It's become, the people who are making the claims still wholeheartedly believe them, at least to the degree that they're going to succeed in what they want them to function for, in removing the person from the argument. But people hearing it used are not hearing the words with any consequence anymore.
Right. Like in the past, maybe a Christian conservative would be called a racist or a bigot or a homophobe, and they felt the need to defend themselves. Like, no, I love everybody. No, I don't want you to think that that I'm hateful. I don't want you. And now it's like, I understand that you think that. I'm sorry you think that. It doesn't mean anything to me. And can move forward and say, like, I love you, and explain, like, what love really is, and speak truth, and know that, like, mean names don't compromise what making true things true.
Mm-hmm. If the action that you are committed to results in your eternal soul being at risk, then me saying something in dissent of your lifestyle is more loving than that person would comprehend until their eyes are opened to that truth. So it makes sense they'd be angry about it, and our what's the phrase? My doing what needs to be done. I can't think of the term I'm looking for. It's like my obedience is not measured by the outcome. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So me acting in accordance with God's law and design by conviction of the Holy Spirit, following God's word, and if the outcome is disdain from the receiver, God is still honored in that.
Yeah. The disco ball in the window is reflecting onto your face.
Oh, that's what's hitting me?
Yeah. Let me close the blinds.
I was seeing it every once in a while. Okay, back at it again. The disco ball has been hidden. It will no longer puncture my eye.
Yeah, sorry about it.
Okay. That's what happens when you've got style, huh?
Yeah.
This next section I'm just going to glance over quick, but it's still fascinating. This is from a separate book that he's quoting by Pete Peterson. Never heard of him either, but give him credit. Quote, within the next 30 years, the official projections suggest that governments in most developed countries will have to spend at least an extra 9 to 16% of GDP annually simply to meet their old age benefit promises. To pay these costs through increased taxation would raise the total tax burden by an unthinkable extra 25 to 40% of every worker's taxable wages, in countries where total payroll tax rates are often already exceed 40%. Or if we resort to deficit spending, we would have to consume all the savings and more of the entire developed world. Obviously, this was a swing because I just skipped to the next chapter, but this is about the populations dying off. Like we said at the beginning, that projections by 2100 are that people of European descent would be 10% of the population and the oldest average population. So still rapidly dwindling.
Wow.
So if they all are dying off, then Social Security, obviously it's already not functioning as the dream was to be of, the utopian dream, that's the word I was looking for. It's already problematic and crumbling, and we're like at the edge of, understandably people would be very upset who had money taken for that their whole life for it to go away, but we have to start getting rid of it to incrementally or whatever to some degree.
Yeah.
So people our age have to be ready to go through with that for the sake of financial future of the whole country, but hopefully there's some wise means of putting that into practice.
Yeah, I don't know, how hard could it possibly be with all the IRS information to just say, okay, you contributed to Social Security from the time you were 16 or 18 or whatever till you were 27 when we stopped putting money into Social Security, and so you'll only get this much when you turn that age, and then eventually it'll be none.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. It's not a topic worth going into detail on at this moment. It's very interesting, and the one thing I definitely wanted to say though was that Grandpa Simpson line when he says, I won't attempt to do the voice. I
think you do a good job with the voice.
That's my Social Security check. I didn't ask for it. I didn't earn it. But man, I will raise hell if it doesn't show up on time.
Yeah.
I'm sure I didn't quite nail that, but
that was good.
It's the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 6. Let's see. I'm skipping extra pages this time. This is looking good. Okay, page 125. It's got something.
I know, your note
us.
page is very short. What's left?
Mm-hmm. It was just... Oh, that's so much good stuff. All right. There's a section in here specifically... Okay, so this chapter is called La Reconquista. You can guess what this is in reference to. So there's a specific chunk here of differences between people that used to be immigrating to the U.S. and then modern immigrants, broadly speaking. I'm going to read this first part that says, the numbers pouring in from Mexico are larger than any wave from any other country in so short a time. In the 1990s alone, folks of Mexican ancestry in the United States grew by 50% to 21 million. And that does not include the 6 million Hispanics who refused to tell census takers their country of origin. Mexican Americans are also concentrated in the U.S. Southwest, though the Founding Fathers wanted immigrants spread out through the population to ensure assimilation. Assimilation... hot term recently because it's just been like we regularly see people in all over the country waving flags of other countries as if that's not a declaration of some sort of military advancement that you would declare that you're bringing your country to a new country. Interesting though, like he said in here that 20% of people with Mexican ancestry are currently in the United States, and that would be as of 2000. Mm-hmm. So not like I had to read that a couple times before I understood what he was saying. So it's like 80% of people that have any Mexican ancestors are in Mexico or somewhere else, but 20% of them, like 1 in 5, were already in the United States.
Of the world.
Yeah.
Not of the U.S.
Yeah. If they were 20% of the... I don't know what the statistics are. It might be that high of... I don't know Mexican specifically, but like Spanish origin.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1/5 of people with Mexican ancestors are in the U.S. It's not based on the U.S. population. It's based off
the
Mexican ancestry. not world. You
But like
follow me?
Mexican ancestry, people with Mexican ancestry in the whole world, 20% of them are in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was so, yeah, again, when then we saw during the Biden administration unknown, uncountable
Yeah.
numbers of immigrants from a variety of places, but clearly Mexico's the closest. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it's the place people are entering through, so I have to assume a significant chunk are that are entering illegally are just of Mexican ancestry, so that's probably higher. It's really interesting and wild.
What does that mean?
Well,
Reconquering.
conquering, like the reconquering.
Reconquering.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That was my guess, but I didn't know if
so it's
reconquering
coming
was a
back.
word. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yes. And then we're going to take another serious... Oh, actually, wait. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I'm going to read one more chapter, and then I'm going to skip way ahead. So it's going to be a major subject change. But, quote, after Ellis Island, the Democratic Party has always been the first stop for immigrants. Only after they have begun to move into the middle class do the foreign-born start converting to republicanism. I would rather say conservatism.
Sure.
This can take 2 generations. By naturalizing and registering 500,000 or 1 million foreign-born a year, the Democrats are locking up future presidential elections and throwing away the key. This sounds familiar. Quote, if the GOP does not do something about mass immigration will do something about the GOP. Turn it into a permanent minority that is home to America's newest minority, Euro-Americans. Does that sound prescient?
What word is that?
That I just said?
Yeah.
Prescient.
You are so smart. Remember
Honey,
when I had a
thesaurus.
bigger...
You are teaching me every day.
But I don't even know that word. This is crazy.
So I was thinking both of that it is very relevant, but also like it has come to pass.
Yeah.
He was speaking of a clear future.
You read so many books. You're so
I read
smart.
them I just read them for you so I can tell you about them.
Yeah.
I'm skipping that. Okay, what did I just read? You distracted me by your flirtations. Okay, that's what it was. So relevant because just right now, okay, I've seen this week a Trump administration spokeslady saying that they asked all 50 states earlier this year to provide the voting registration processes so to prove that they were not registering illegal aliens.
Yeah.
So that everybody was an actual citizen that was registering to vote, and were sued by 6 states in response to that. And I know that New York and California...
Tell me you have nothing to hide.
Yeah. Yes. And then New York and California, for sure, I'm sure there's others that say that it's illegal to ask for they say you have to be a citizen to vote, but it's illegal to ask to prove you're a citizen to vote. Is this strange? Is this suspicious?
Suspicious.
Seems suspicious. Okay, continuing. This is going to be about the courts. All this stuff. See, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Everything is
I can't believe this book is 25 years old.
It was just so clear that this is what we were heading towards, and then we've lived through it really being put into practice. Mm-hmm. So it was such a wild time to be reading this.
Yeah, and we're in our late 20s, and so this has been just our lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He wrote this when we were little roly-polies, and then we've lived through it just growing.
Yeah.
Metastasizing?
Metamorphosizing.
Did I say an actual word? I was trying to impress you again. Okay, I'm going to read this section. Quote, when the First Amendment prohibited Congress from making any law, quote, respecting an establishment of religion, and required Congress to respect the free exercise of faith, the Supreme Court reinterpreted the words to justify a preemptive strike on Christianity. All Christian Bibles, books, crosses, symbols, ceremonies, and holidays were ordered out of the public square and public schools. Out went Adam and Eve, in came Heather Has Two Mommies. That must have been a book. Out went paintings of Christ ascending into heaven, in came pictures of apes ascending into Homo erectus. Out went Easter, in came Earth Day. Out went Bible teachings about the immorality of homosexuality, in came the homosexuals to teach about the immorality of homophobia. That's a sentence. Out went the commandments, in came the condoms. Going back 50 years, the Supreme Court has inflicted an almost uninterrupted string of defeats upon the faith of our fathers. In 1948, voluntary religious instruction was outlawed in public schools. In 1962, school prayer went out. In 1963, voluntary daily reading from the Bible was declared unconstitutional. In 1980, a Kentucky law that called for posting the Ten Commandments on classroom walls was overturned because the commandments served, quote, no secular purpose. In 1985, Alabama's moment of silence at the start of the school day was declared unconstitutional.
That is crazy.
In 1989, the Supreme Court ordered a nativity scene removed from the grounds of the Allegheny County Courthouse outside Pittsburgh. In 1992, all prayers at high school graduations prohibited. In 2000, students were forbidden to pray over the loudspeakers at high school games. So obviously, there's going to be plenty of places where those kind of things are ignored, but these were Supreme Court results. And then he goes through another list of other things.
So, like, if someone came and protested the school board, then there's a precedent set to be on their side.
And then there's a different list that I won't read right now of lesser courts doing similar things.
Wow.
It's just wild and fascinating. And he says this on page 194. This is one that I actually wrote down in my notebook because I wanted to remember. He says, when Christians were told to turn the other cheek, it was for offenses against them, not against God. Christ himself used a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple. It's succinct and it's so helpful for the perspective on political activity as a Christian.
Yeah.
What is you in interpersonal relationships, you can show, I mean, like, be reasonable. Obviously, self-defense is permitted when necessary. That's not what I'm talking about, but it's to your glory to overlook an offense. That you can do that and extend the utmost grace. But when your leaders are acting in a way that is against the laws of God, then we get them out of there, and we are active for the result of God's good statutes, for the flourishing of all people being put into practice. So turning the other cheek was for offenses against me, not against God. I thought that was really helpful.
Yeah. And what is that from?
That's from Pat Buchanan.
Oh, okay.
He said that in this chapter. I think I'm going on to the next chapter, and we're almost done.
Sweet.
Highly recommend reading this book. It's probably obvious. 198 and 99. Okay, I think I'm going to read another significant chunk. This chapter is called Dechristianizing America. Quote, the dechristianization of America is a great gamble, a roll of the dice, with our civilization as the stakes. America has thrown overboard the moral compass by which the Republic steered for 200 years, and now it sails by dead reckoning. Reason alone, without revelation, sets our course. The Founding Fathers warned that this was a bridge too far. No country could remain free unless virtuous, they said, and virtue could not exist in the absence of faith. Do not, quote, indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion, said Washington in his farewell address. Quote, of all the dispositions and habits which leads to prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. John Adams agreed, quote, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. I'm going to continue reading this section following. There's some specific points to be made. Quote, consider what has happened to our society with the overthrow of the old moral order. 1 in 4 children was born to white women. 1 in 4 children born to white women are out of wedlock. In 1960, it was 2%.
From
2 to 25 over 40 years, starting with birth control.
Wow.
3 in 4 unmarried white women have had affairs by age 19. I read this yesterday, and I kind of think what he means by affairs is just sexual activity outside of marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think of affairs
because adultery
Yeah.
is supposed to mean that.
Yes.
Like anything outside of husband and wife.
Now I'm saying it in this, that's what it is, yeah. It's just so used to affair being going outside of your marriage, but you are going outside of your marriage, even if you haven't entered into it yet. I'm with you, Pat. Okay. In 1900, the figure was 6%. So 6 to 75% over the course of a century. Oh, this makes so much sense. Teenage suicides are triple what they were in the early 60s. The test scores of high school students are now among the lowest of industrialized nations. Wonderful. Abortions in the United States run at 1.2 to 1.4 million per year. Let's see. The U.S. divorce rate is up 350% since 1962. 1/3 of all American children now live in single-parent homes. And as I read all these, we can safely assume that it is worse over the last 25 years.
And
than
these
even than what
numbers
these
are
say.
crazy,
Yes.
and this was 25 years ago.
Nearly 2 million Americans are in jail or prison, 4.5 million on probation or parole. In 1980, the prison and jail population was 500,000.
I was listening to a debate or a commentary on a Jeff Durbin debate. Jeff Durbin was talking about it in Apologia Studios or radio or whatever. And they said something about how there's no model for the American prison system in the Bible. And I was like, I had never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
there's just punishment. It's like you pay what was due if you stole something, or you injured someone, or you injured an animal. You replace plus interest what damage you did, or your life is taken basically if you do something.
Because you surrendered your right to
consequence.
life when you took somebody else's or assaulted someone else. Yeah, I never thought about there's not a model for the American prison system, and the people complain about the American prison system being so corrupt from like a liberal perspective, but from a biblical perspective, like there's no model for it. That was fascinating. Anyways.
Last thing on this list. In the African American community, 69% of all births are out of wedlock. 2/3 of children live in single-parent homes. 28.5% of boys can expect to serve a jail or prison sentence.
That's insane.
All ties together, and I know it's over. I mean, like I said, safely assume it has increased. The most recent that I saw was 72% for African American out of wedlock births. It's so sad. Okay, on to chapter 9 is called The Intimidated Majority. Also accurate statement. 215. Quote, Americans who look on this cultural revolution as politics as usual do not understand it. It means to make an end of the country we love. It cannot be appeased. Its relentless, reckless use of terms like extremist, sexist, racist, homophobe, nativist, xenophobe, fascist, and Nazi testifies to how seriously it takes the struggle and how it views those who resist. To true believers in the revolution, the right is not just wrong, the right is evil.
Yeah, that is exactly what happens.
These are the kind of sections I read in this book that blew me away on, you're telling me that people have been doing this for, when I think of the word generation in my head, I think 40 years, like the 40 years in the desert. And I think it usually is done to about that much, but I think it's easy to think of like 20 years. So I just wanted to clarify, I was about to say this has been going on over a generation, but it's been longer than that, because it seems to me that like the Allies came together and gave up a lot to defeat German forces in World War II. And then we found out more about the terrible things over the next decade or two about what actually was going on, the extent of the concentration camps, extermination of Jews and other persecuted peoples. And then somewhere in that, so like that war ended in 1945, somewhere in the between 55, 65 range, it seems to me these terms started becoming a really easy way to shut down opposing viewpoints in our political practice, and then just got used more and more and more, and we just got to see the tipping point of the end of this has gone on for way too long, and we're just going to start ignoring these terms like they don't mean anything. It seems, I'm sure there's plenty of people that are totally on board with what I'm saying. Like, it seems comical at this point, seeing people called Nazi. But at the same time, terrifying is that that's still the term that people in our nation are currently using as recently as this week to continue to celebrate Charlie Kirk being shot to death.
Yeah.
So
it's so wicked and so crazy. And people have no definition of terms like anti-fascist. There's just like no understanding of history. There's no understanding of terms. And it's totally manipulated propaganda. And it is the death of the West.
The death of the West. It continues. Chapter 10, A House Divided. I have one thing to read from this. And then we're doing the final is actually a positive, a hopeful end.
I was actually preparing my mind to ask you for a hopeful end. So beautiful.
The last section is government policies that are pro-family that could be put into practice. So we'll talk about that to close it out.
Okay.
First, quote, but America and the West face 4 clear and present dangers. The first is a dying population. Second is mass immigration of people of different colors, creeds, and cultures, changing the character of the West forever. The third is the rise to dominance of an anti-Western culture in the West, deeply hostile to its religions, traditions, and morality, which has already sundered the West. The fourth is the breakup of nations and the defection of ruling elites to a world government whose rise entails the end of nations. On the world government front, I think it's inherent. People assume that it's a problem, especially because we associate it with like World Health Organization. It's just like Austin Powers, scary super villain that's like over the top. Especially because what was that guy's name that was in charge? The bald guy with the crazy accent. He just fit the super villain type so perfectly.
Jeff Bezos? I don't know. He doesn't have an accent.
Oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, but the one government, just to briefly touch on this, if there was a one world government, the problem is there's nobody to hold them accountable. Yeah. So, I mean, like,
that's one problem.
I would say the one world government is a clear signifier that actually the end of all things is about to take place, because there's nothing but Christ on the white horse to come in and make all things new. Should I come to a greater understanding of explanation, maybe we'll come back to the subject a different time. That's what I'll say for now. But the other stuff, like the mass immigration, this is the immigration without assimilation, is invasion. So there's people, like, I'm so thankful. I hope people can have this same understanding that it is by the grace of God. There's people in positions of authority right now that have slowed down just the wanton, unrestricted letting in of anybody into the country, because what other purpose could there be besides to wreak more havoc, destruction, and confusion upon the population? And seemingly, just like that quote he said about them, the Democratic Party gaining more voters by this, and then some of our current voting, like the lawsuits and stuff. Oh yeah, I unplugged the battery. Oh. I'm just finish like this?
Yeah, the camera died, but you can still listen to us. Yeah. Let's keep going.
Still here. Okay. All that, it seems really foolish to say that the clear expectation is one, just societal decay, but probably more so would be maintaining of power, which I don't understand to what end, because it seems so hopeless and nihilistic, but we'll come back to that another time.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say about that for now. Let's finish this thing off. Page 232 has what he recommends, and the first section, as you'll see here, has some beautiful art on it, honey. Lucy Ray got to my book at some point, so we've got some nice scribbles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Signature.
Here's what he recommends. This is cool. Okay. Civil Rights Act should be amended to allow employers to pay higher wages to parents than to single people, to enable one spouse to stay home with infants and toddlers and to be there when the kids come home from school. This could apply to single dads and single moms. I love that.
Yeah.
This is like so you'd incentivize a living wage for families, and then you'd have more.
But not mandate it, incentivize it,
and
that's a really important difference.
True. Next is, instead of a tax deduction for daycare, so mothers can return to work, the federal tax credit for each child should be raised to $3,000. I don't know what it is currently. We got it. We got a adoption credit and tax credit last year. But this might eliminate federal income taxes for large families as well as poor families. Give women freedom to choose whether to stay home with their kids and have more kids. America does not need more workers. America needs more children. Amen, dude. I'll read the next one. Employers should be given tax incentives to pay higher wages to parents.
Sorry, it says a maximum credit of $2,000 per child.
That's what I was thinking in my head that it was.
Yeah.
All right, I remembered that. So I'm guessing it hasn't really been changed much since he said it should be raised to $3,000.
Yeah, it says up to, this one says up to $2,200 per child.
Yeah. Okay, next one. We need to revive the idea of a family wage where a single income is adequate for a secure and comfortable life for a growing family. Please, beautiful. Next, the burden of corporate taxation should be lifted off family businesses and farms into larger corporations. As Ronald Reagan used to say, corporations don't pay taxes, people do. Corporations only collect taxes. Let the Fortune 500 do the collecting. I love this because this, like, the tax the rich idea is just foolishness. It's just like, take more of their money. This, it can easily be seen along the same, I mean, like, it's in the same vein of idea, but this is you put the taxes onto corporations, which means the products increase in their cost because the companies make up for it, the taxes, with the products costing more. But instead of the people having their money taken away immediately in the form of taxation, you have to decide to spend more money on the products on the other end. So that's a much better
We would
option.
much rather have products and goods cost more or have increased taxes, like sales. We'd rather have increased sales tax than have income tax at all, because you have to bring in income. You don't have to spend. I mean, you have to spend some money, but you don't have to spend as much money as people spend.
Yeah.
And so you have more control over what you're spending, but you need to make money. There's no option with that. So, yeah,
I agree.
Abolish income tax.
I agree. Next, it just says death taxes should be abolished. This seems wild to me.
Death taxes?
Anyway, this is where it's like the taxes on passing your the things you own on, like an estate.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that.
Weird.
Yes, it's death taxes in quotes. So this is like, when it gets given to onto a family member, whatever is involved in that process. And then if new revenue is needed to pay for family tax cuts, it can be obtained through taxes on consumption and duties on imports. If America has a crisis, it is certainly not a lack of imported consumer goods down at the mall. And he wasn't ready for Amazon.
For real.
Yep. And that's the end of my notes, what I thought we needed to go through from this book.
Yeah, wow.
Please go read it. Oh, man. It's just a necessary perspective change.
So that's a good, hopeful ideas that the government could partake in. But I'm sure a lot of people can just feel discouraged still after hearing all of that if they do go and read the book. Because it can be easy to put our hope in the government, our hope in the Western world and maintenance of that. And we see, so much more than existed when this book was written of Islamic immigration affecting, the stories I've heard of people online sharing about living in England and how dangerous it is. And then now there's places like Michigan where it's spreading so much, and that is not compatible with a Christian Western culture. So what would you say to be an encouragement for people? Where should their hope be? To lob up an easy one for you.
Yeah. My hope is in the Lord. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. And we certainly truthfully react to things that are against God. That's why I say we have to be politically involved. You should be. I think I sprinkled plenty of hopeful little situational things throughout, but you have to be involved and thankful for those that are currently holding political power. Obviously, there's plenty of people who are doing that to demonic ends, but there is people if you are feeling, go read your Bible. If you are feeling discouraged, follow up on that. That's very recent and tangible in our nation. Is go watch the memorial ceremony from Charlie Kirk and listen to the speakers and the positions of power in our government they currently hold. And even if to some degree some of the people saying those things that appeared to be very righteously honoring the Lord are doing them kind of in a people-pleasing way, where they're saying it because it is currently, and praise God for this, is meaningful in our societal makeup. Like, it is well received, which we should rejoice in that too.
Absolutely.
But even so, like Paul, Philippians 1, some preach out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. But he says, but in either way, Christ is proclaimed, and in that I rejoice. So he's saying there was preachers that were out of spite towards him going and basically trying to take his, Paul's followers, or knock down his position kind of thing. But if they were righteously speaking, giving opportunity for the Spirit to be at work, then he rejoices in that, even if they see themselves as defiant to Paul himself. So I think of that in people that are making statements that appear godly and may be of questionable intent. Christ is proclaimed, and in that I rejoice. There's plenty to be hopeful for. Be patient in tribulation.
Constant.
In the very immediate, what you're going through in your circle, and also what you see all around you in the nation. If you are being overwhelmed by with what you see nationwide or worldwide, you need to get off of social media, because you need to be available for your family first and foremost, and then out from there. So be patient in tribulation. I started supposed to rejoice in hope, but I was doing that before. And then be patient in tribulation, and then be constant in prayer, going back to God in prayer. There, you can do that at all times. Open line of communication. Ask God for peace. Like in James, ask God for wisdom. He will give it to you. Mm-hmm. Ask, seek, and knock. If you are coming with a open, righteous heart, those requests will be answered. Don't expect them to be answered as you intended, but ask nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's plenty to be hopeful for. I'm excited to be learning and to be living at this time.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. And you can go listen to Nick Freitas' American Comeback episode. It was a couple weeks ago. It was like 5 ways America is making a comeback. That was a great one.
What's his show called?
It's Making the Argument. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And overall, I'm ready to close it out. You good?
Yeah. Great.
Overall, don't forget that Jesus loves you, so go and sin no more. Wait, you thought it was going to end. When I say go and sin no more, remember that one sinner corrupts much good. So us going out as children of light, as lights into a dark world, we get to provide much good in the means of reflecting Christ. So don't be someone that takes away. But go and sin no more. Take it seriously.